Speedrunning the Division 2 is an incredibly popular pastime for the player base, gaining more mainstream attraction here on YouTube and seeing some incredibly talented players battling it out in missions and more. Raid speedrunning is undeniably the pinnacle of this. With 8 players comes lots of margin for error, and with mechanically complex and damage-demanding encounters, the difficulty is only compounded. Despite growing numbers of people speedrunning the Division 2, recently the speedrun community collectively ran their final raid as they knew it. With recent adjustments and bug fixes from the developers, speedrunning in the Division 2's second raid, Operation Iron Horse, seems to be over, with current times unreachable without cheating. Or is it? In this video, we'll continue the journey from the first Iron Horse documentary to see where times were left, moving on to how Iron Horse speedruns were irreversibly changed forever, before exploring the strategies capable of saving entire minutes in the raid that the speedrun community will likely never use. If you haven't seen the previous documentary, I've put a link in the description. I'm also just going to point out a slight conflict of interest. I am in the clan we're going to cover today, and these guys are really good friends of mine. I've kept the information as unbiased as possible, but there will be some residual unconscious bias that I can't mitigate. Our Iron Horse story was left with the world record from Sal, a time so close to the sub 15 mark, falling short by only a few small seconds. What was maybe understated in the original video was just how optimized the strategies in play, and just how precise the teamwork, communication, and execution needs to be to come within even 30 seconds of that time. Despite this, the speedrun community knew deep down that if a team could get that close to the biggest speedrunning achievement to date, then they could grind those extra few seconds and claim it. Unlike the initial battles in Iron Horse towards these barrier times, this was different. The subset of the speedrunning community actually capable of claiming the world record was minuscule, and the subset of that subset who were actually willing to put in the work was even smaller. In this period, many people tried for the time. We saw new world records on the console side, and a handful of short-lived teams formed on PC, all aiming for the same goal. This is when LFN, an international clan who had previously fought hard in Iron Horse speedruns to prove their ability to innovate and execute, decided it was time. Many clan members had found themselves with spare time due to summer breaks, and the developers had introduced new gear which opened the gates for minor time saves, such as the Busy Little Bee pistol. I'm not going to cover all of these time saves, because these are optimizations on optimizations requiring a lot of context. No single save equates to more than a few seconds off the final time. But remember, they only needed a few seconds, alongside a recreation of a run which had already happened, to break the barrier. This was a crack team, the Navy SEALs of Division speedrunning, featuring names who have accomplished things in the game that no one else has, such as duoing the entire Iron Horse raid without skips or bug abuse. They ground this time out hard, posting improvements to their current time on an incredibly regular basis, and streaming the journey for the community. This time and effort was all just about to become worth it, because on the 18th of May 2023, they got this time, setting a new world record in the process. 15:06, a remarkable achievement since the community was reaching acceptance that the Sal time would stand indefinitely. As mentioned previously, this time didn't use any strategy overhauls, but more so optimizations for consistency, meaning more shots on goal, and savings of a few seconds. It's also worth mentioning that when chasing this faster time, even things as small as load times can be the difference between world record or not, which just demonstrates the undying dedication these guys possessed. Resetting a run you played perfectly on just because you got bad RNG or bad loads is as frustrating as it sounds. So they'd got world record, they should be happy, right? Right. Unfortunately, this time didn't satisfy them. They weren't running for world record, they were running to show the world that the sub 15 barrier wasn't just a pipe dream. With that said, the free time of the team was starting to dwindle, and it was looking like they may have to accept this time and move on. After all, it was incredibly impressive, but their time wasn't up just yet, so they put their heads down and kept pushing while they could. On the morning of the 31st of May 2023, I woke up around 6 AM for work as I usually do, and had a quick look at Discord. Little did I know, this wouldn't be as quick of a browse as usual. Upon checking the vroom.gg server, I noticed a little white notification in the Times channel, where the community posts their accomplishments. This post, from LunarNA, a very popular and talented leader and speedrunner, was about to make Division 2 history. On their final day of running, close to the end of the session, they got this time. 14:56. The impossible had just become a reality. The barrier which some of the community didn't even think was possible to break had been broken. This run is close to perfection. The team will argue that they could have pushed as low as 1430 with perfect execution, RNG and loads, but that's speedrunners being speedrunners. It can't be understated that this is probably the greatest achievement that will ever be claimed in the Division 2's history. Today, this time still stands. Whilst that is in part due to the unbelievably talented players, there are deeper and sadder reasons. You see, the dev team have been making waves lately in the Division. They're full steam ahead with fixing old bugs, as well as introducing new gear and longer term more content to use that gear in. One of the key bugs utilised in Iron Horse speedruns from the very start is referred to as open doors. There are two variants of this strategy. The first variant, and the one that was used in early Iron Horse speedruns, saw a player opening the first shutter gate while the raid was reset. This would allow players to run through the gate on the next attempt, allowing them to get into position to nuke all spawns before a single enemy had set foot on the rail yard. This allows for a time save of a few seconds, but nothing revolutionary. On the 20th of June 2023, the developers released an update which terrified the speedrun community. This update was touted to fix this variant of the open doors bug, and it did. While shocking at first, this bug wasn't actually used in raid speedruns anymore, so the community quickly accepted it. I hear you asking, if it saves time, why wasn't it in use? It wasn't in use because there was a significantly more bountiful second variant of open doors, which saved minutes from Iron Horse speedruns. We still, to this day, don't understand what caused this bug, but we do know what it enabled. If a raid was launched from outside of the raid, every single door within that raid would be open, including objects that block you from running to the next encounter. The timetables attached to this had a similar implementation to the initial open doors bug, allowing players to get in position ahead of encounters starting, but on a much bigger scale. Because every door was open, players could distribute themselves across the first 3 encounters, meaning that once one was completed, the next could immediately be started. There's a lot of running between encounters in this raid, so this enabled giant time saves. This bug had been the backbone of Iron Horse speedruns for years, and it's what allowed basically any time under the 17-minute mark thus far to happen. That said, the devs decided this bug had run its course, and on the 25th of July 2023, the developers released an update which unknowingly and irreversibly changed Iron Horse. They fixed this version of open doors. This immediately spurred mixed reactions in the community. Many teams stopped running there and then, but a small group decided this was the time to find new strategies. Strategies that could beat even current world records without open doors. Now, I'm not going to get your hopes up that new strategies have been found, or times have been posted which put previous world records to shame. The sad reality of the developers' decision is that Iron Horse speedruns as we knew them are done, at least for now. With no in-game leaderboard reset, the speedrun community is currently trying to find a way to record post-patch times, which are, as expected, significantly slower than the previous, now unbeatable world record. Pay careful attention to my wording there though. No new strategies have been found. That doesn't mean that strategies previously on the back burner can't be used. Let's look at what those strategies are. The first is one that still to this day remains incredibly controversial. This is a strategy referred to as Morrow Skip. Morrow Skip is a bug which can be exploited in the final encounter of the raid, Colonel Morozova, whereby with some trickery, the team can wipe and skip the entire encounter. This results in a split around the 1 minute mark for the whole encounter. To put that into perspective, the 1456 world record had a Morozova split of almost 6 minutes. The community has known about this bug for a long time now, but only a couple of teams have used it. Unfortunately, these teams weren't capable of beating the current world record at the time, even with the 5 to 6 minute time save. The reason it hasn't been used thus far is that even speedrunners seem to have a limit with bug abuse. Skipping an entire encounter didn't sit right with the majority. Granted, current speedruns rely on a host of mechanic skipping bugs, but those require coordination and arguably more skill to execute than completing the encounter the traditional way. The skip wasn't that. It was just a way of completely avoiding playing the final encounter. A vote was hosted in the vroom.gg Discord server at the time to gauge community response, and it was almost unanimously voted to be banned in speedruns, at least those hosted in Vroom. This was a long while back now, so it's possible we'll see re-emergence of this strategy in the coming months. The next strategy, which will likely never be used in an Iron Horse run, but has potential to save a lot of time, is one called Open World Super Drag. We know about Super Drag, I've even done a tutorial video for it. It's a method of having players spawn somewhere far into an activity upon activity start, using spawn manipulation. In a raiding context, it's a meme in the speedrun community. It's so inconsistent, and people joke about the mental impact of resetting a raid from a checkpoint for 2 hours before they can even run the first room. That's Super Drag, but where does Open World Drag differ? Open World Drag is a strategy discovered by Ronon, a top German speedrunner. The major drawback of Super Drag is that the team can collectively only manipulate their spawn to a single location, and it has to be a checkpointed location. Strategies have to work around this limitation, which means that the scope for time saves is limited. What Ronon and his team discovered is that if you complete a raid, you can super drag to anywhere on the map and use multiple locations at once. This means that time saves similar to the old open doors strategies are once again possible. So if there's a world record capable strategy, why aren't people using it? This falls down to a single point of failure: consistency. I mentioned earlier that super drag is very inconsistent. Unfortunately, this trend continues and amplifies with open world drag. It can genuinely take hours to get one runnable attempt, and then once the team gets that shot on goal, they can't make any mistakes at all, get bad loads or bad RNG, or it's back to the beach. Pair this with the fact that after every attempt, a checkpoint has to be loaded from an alt account of a completed raid, and it's just not practically viable. I'd love to see a run posted with this time save. There's opportunity for some really innovative strategies, but the chance of all the stars aligning with the addition of the inconsistency is astronomically low. I would be very surprised if anyone ever posts a time with open world drag. We've covered past and present, so what's the future of Iron Horse speedrunning? Many teams are now returning to Iron Horse to participate in closed door speedruns. Obviously, the current world record can't be beaten using these strategies, but for some, the open door fix has actually breathed a breath of fresh air into the raid. A team led by LFN clan commander AJ Gads, with representation from a whole host of clans, has already posted a competitive time of 16 minutes and 45 seconds, pointing out their time loss to prove that sub 16 is still possible, even without open doors. I'm personally very excited to see more teams running Iron Horse as we all used to again, and closed door strategies are much kinder on the mental, so if you've ever wanted to get involved in speedrunning raids in the division, there really couldn't be a better time than now. Myself and fellow speedrunners are already working on ways that we can record post-patch times. After all, speedrunning is a competition, and it would be nice to be able to view a leaderboard of current, moderated, and most importantly achievable times. I'm sure at some point we'll be revisiting this topic again due to new discoveries in Iron Horse and even more players proving to the masses that the impossible is, in fact, possible. But for now, thank you to everyone who made the open doors period of Iron Horse as exciting, community-oriented, and inspiring as it was. As both a spectator and contributor, it was a fantastic period which I think many of us will remember for a very long time. And thank you, the viewer, for staying to the end to hear what's been going on in the speedrun community. Unfortunately, we lost two of the best speedrunners the community had to offer due to the developers' changes, real life, sub-15 accomplishment, and the future direction of the game. I just want to say a huge thank you to Lunar and Astro for their contributions. Without these two, I think Iron Horse speedruns would be in a very different and slower place than they are today. Love you boys, and best of luck for the future. With that said, until next time, thanks for watching.